We continue our look at fallacies of relevance in this video, and still in that category of the ad fontem fallacies, those that attack the source of something, by looking at two more, the tu quoque fallacy and the genetic fallacy. Once again, we've got to talk a little bit of Latin. So tu quoque literally means you also, or you too. It's the type of fallacy that it really is saying, well, listen, I can't listen to you because you do the same thing, and maybe you do the same thing, but even worse, right? So who are you to tell me, right, when you too also do this particular thing? And we're going to see in an example why that really is fallacious. It's a weak argument to say that. The other one is called the genetic fallacy. And you certainly see the word gene and you think genetics, and that's coming from the Greek word genesis, which really is just Genesis, which is the word for beginning. And the genetic fallacy is a fallacy that attacks something based on its origin or where it comes from. And again, it's a very weak kind of argument. We consider it fallacious, and we're going to see an example of both of those. So here's our little dragon and kangaroo again. Kangaroo sitting out by campfire. And Dragon says, "You really shouldn't be around that. Fires are dangerous." And little kangaroo's thinking, is he kidding? He shoots fire from his mouth. Now, that would be an example of the tu quoque fallacy. Kangaroo is basically saying, I shouldn't take Dragon's advice because Dragon does the same thing. He's around fire. In fact, he's even worse. He actually sprays fire from his mouth. So why should I listen to him? Now, if you think about it, it is true what Logic Dragon said, right? Fires can be dangerous. In fact, Logic Dragon may be giving some good advice. The fallacy here is on the side of the kangaroo. She completely discounts Dragon's advice because she says, well, you do the same thing. In fact, you do even worse by spewing fire out of your mouth. Who are you to tell me? Okay. Now, in fact, kangaroo's reasoning is fallacious. That's not good reasoning because, in fact, like I say, we know fires can be dangerous. So Dragon is actually giving some good advice. But I'd like to pause on that for a moment. One of the things about the tu quoque fallacy is it also throws something back on the other side. It's called being a hypocrite. Now, you've heard that word before. Right? Being a hypocrite is someone who says one thing, but does the other, or does the opposite. And while it's true that we can't discount what somebody says, just because that person does the opposite, or does even worse, right? The person who chain smokes cigarettes and tells you not to smoke is still good advice not to smoke, right? But you want to make sure that your actions and your words go together. While the tu quoque fallacy, again, is on the part of the kangaroo in this example, at the same time, you want to make sure that what you say and what you do are really the same. That's called living a life of integrity. And when you don't, when you move into the realm of becoming a hypocrite, saying one thing and doing something else, you set yourself up not to be taken seriously. People won't listen to your advice. Now, they may be wrong in not listening to you, right? They may be committing the tu quoque fallacy themselves by not listening to you, but at the same time, you kind of set them up for it. So I want to make sure that our words and our actions really are the same. Now let's take a look at an example of the genetic fallacy. So here's the fellow in green holding a Bible, and the fellow in green says, following Jesus is the only way to have a true relationship with God. And the girl in gold says, sorry, but I can't accept any idea that's based on a book of pure fiction. So the girl in gold is committing the genetic fallacy. She's attacking the source of what the guy in green says. She saw him holding the Bible. She's assuming that he got this argument from the Bible, and she's attacking the source. She says the Bible is nothing but a book of pure fiction, and I don't listen to that. I don't base my life on pure fiction. So she's attacking the origin or the source of his argument. Now, let's think about that for a moment. That's completely unfair on the part of the girl in gold. All right, she just started off with this assumption that the Bible is a work of fiction. There's a whole lot more we could go into, or the guy in green could go into, to helping her understand that the Bible is not a work of fiction. And he could talk about the validity of the Bible and the veracity, which means it speaks the truth, and all of the historical information we have that backs up the Bible, and archaeological evidence that backs up the Bible, and so forth. But instead of attacking his argument in any way, that Jesus is the only way to a true relationship with God, rather than deal with his argument, she went after his source and just dismissed it. She says, you just got that idea out of the Bible. The Bible is a bunch of fiction, and I don't listen to fiction. End of story. Okay? That's the genetic fallacy. But I also, again, want to go back to the other side for just a moment. Okay? Take for example, that example. Maybe you're wanting to talk to somebody about Jesus. You have to know your audience. You need to know, and actually you need to care about the person you're talking with. All right? It's not just about winning their soul to Christ. Do you actually know the person? Do you know how that person thinks? Do you already know that that person doesn't think much of the Bible? Then maybe you don't want to start off with a biblical argument. Okay? If the person already thinks that the Bible is a bunch of fiction, then you certainly don't want to be standing there just holding a Bible and saying Jesus is the only way. They're going to immediately take your argument, assume that it's coming straight from the Bible, which they've already discounted, and admittedly, they're making the genetic fallacy in doing so, but that hasn't helped anybody. So if you say, taking that example, you know somebody doesn't believe that the Bible is true. You might want to do a little work with them first and start talking about the Bible before you ever get to talking to them about Jesus. You might want to say, hey, you know what? I've been reading the Bible and I found a lot of things in it that are powerful and are true. And here's why. And you walk them through the validity and the veracity of the Bible. And so once maybe they come to understand that, then you're ready to say, and guess what? Now you know that the Bible is true. Now I can talk to you about Jesus. So once again, the genetic fallacy is on just dismissing somebody's source for their argument without really dealing with the argument itself. But this also shows another side of it, where we want to take into account the person we're talking with when we make an argument or try to be persuasive.